sorry. We're recording. It is Thursday, 20th, 2025. We are 16 days until the start of the USL Championship season and 30 days until the start of the Detroit City FC USL Championship home opener.
Yeah.
Which means, once again, it's time to make City Make Spence. Garret here in the Metro Detroit East Side, joining, and as always, I'm not alone. First things first, the man that does all the production, editing, graphics, all that stuff. The man that wears a lot of hats. I don't know how he wears all these hats. Adam Hernandez, how are you this evening?
I got an Angels hat on tonight.
So as you can see, he's got a halo on his head. And then also joining us, the man of the hour, the man of the power, too sweet to be sour. The namesake of this, writer of the Patreon, that's 3 doll hairs a month of words about shapes, keeper of some minds, and all around badass motherfucker, Sean Spence. How are you this evening?
I as usual feel unworthy of my introduction, so I'm all right. Ready to get this shit rolling. Like, we gotta City always has a lot going on, and let's get into it.
We had a lot of details come up, especially these last 48-ish hours or so. When was the last time we recorded? We recorded first beginning of
2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's been like 3 weeks.
So we had a wave of signing announcements take place just before. We were waiting on 1 or 2 before after our last recording. Those 2 announcements finally happened.
Right.
We also had one that has been half announced, which we'll talk about tonight. And then some preseason matchups have taken place. So, first announcement that took place since we've last recorded was the announcement of Jay Chapman, a veteran midfielder joining the Detroit City FC side. A Canadian who's come up through the Toronto FC Academy. He's featured plenty of times for us, as well as recently at Hartford Athletic and Charleston Battery. And then, yes, this today, actually, in fact, somebody that we were teasing giddily the last time we recorded, have seen on team sheets of our preseason matches as unnamed forward. Someone that John Morrissey did kind of reveal as like, it's not a secret, here's why.
Yeah.
In his USL Tactics article earlier.
I actually talked with John on, we texted back and forth on Twitter about Atis. So yeah. and then he rolled it out. I was like, oh geez.
And then finally it was announced today, Atis Diouf, which was what we've heard, what the pronunciation that we've been given so far to use. If that changes at all, we will update in our content moving forward. It's kind of similar, maybe in a way, with Lijop, and throughout the years. But Atis Diouf is somebody that's grown up around Lijop. Played soccer and football in Florida with Lijop, as well as Musa Gay years past. Young, exciting talent on loan this season to Detroit City FC from Lexington SC. And we are, as you can tell, we were giddy talking about him. Now we get to actually talk about him. And then a name that we saw in last week in a preseason friendly announcements, not yet fully officially announced, but not listed as a trialist, Sebastian Guenzati.
He's like, they just haven't announced him yet. There's probably paperwork things, but he's signed. He's going to be a team.
A name that people can remember, Tampa Bay Rowdy, the 11 last year. Also, New York Cosmos NASL version back in the day too. So plenty of names, and then along with yesterday, the announcement of the new team sponsor, Alumnify, or Alumnifi, depending on how you want to. our buddy Nick Finn's going to listen to this and want to punch his. And the home kit debut yesterday on too. A new sponsorship deal which sees Detroit City have the most lucrative sponsorship in USL. Holy shit, boys! Look how far we've come.
The only thing about that, though, I don't know if we'll get to it, because that came from the Sports Business Journal.
Yeah, SBJ.
They didn't give any specifics around it as to why it was the most lucrative deal. Like, they weren't throwing around any numbers, which I understand that some of that is going to be under wraps a little bit, but they didn't lead anything to believe that it was the most lucrative business deal because of A, B, or C. It was just, this is one of the most lucrative, business deals of all time. So I don't know. I'm still questioning on where they got something like that from.
I mean, I tend to assume, and maybe this is naive of me, but that, a place that has editors, that all these facts have been vetted.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't give details. But
maybe it's the way it was written. I don't know.
Yeah, I think what we can take away from that is that this is a lucrative
absolutely
shirt sponsorship. And I think someone in the Discord talked about the fact that the youth teams, the fact that these kits will be pushed out to all the youth teams, and that there'll be players running all around Southeast Michigan playing with alumni phi on their chest. That really is a big part of it, because this is a credit union, like online bank, that is trying to grow quickly, it seems like. So I think most of us probably were introduced to this business today when that tweet dropped. Like, okay, what the fuck is that?
And if I remember correctly, last time the Detroit Chevy dealers or whatever weren't on all the youth kits.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah. This is going to go out wide, and they paid top dollar for that. And the fact that City can now really cover a significant percentage of their budget annually. And significant, I'm not talking about 30%. I'm talking about 10%, 15% by just by selling these kit sponsorships. We're speculating that they're up around $1 million of because we know other kit deals in USL Championship have been around the $500,000 mark for the main crest or the chest front sponsor. And we also know that City was looking for around 350 for the back. So, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, it's encouraging to see the balloon continue to inflate, because, it really needs to for the team to be competitive year in and year out.
4 years deal per the article in Crane's Business Journal that came out today, which means that provided that there's no setbacks in the stadium deal, that this will be the sponsor on the front of the kit come 2027.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is all kind of happening together. We'll talk later in the thing about what's going on in USL. But all of this begins to look like a movement, like everyone's moving up together, and that's really encouraging. We'll get into this later. I guess I'm not gonna like, if I start digging into it, then we'll just talk about it now, and I don't want to leave the thing off with that. But it's encouraging to like the weird thing is, to maintain your independence, you have to give some of it away. It's just, you can't just be like, we're just going to live on ticket revenue and good thoughts. You're not going to make enough money to pay your players, and you're going to go out of business. So, partnering with businesses that aren't odious is as good as we can get in our current situation. You know, it is what it is. Like, this is the situation we're in. And you know, I'm glad that we're getting money from a relatively local business that seems to be trying to grow. No, banks, you know, what are you gonna do? Motherfuckers got the money, right? So,
Yeah, it could be
Let's
worse.
talk
It
about
could be
soccer.
worse. Yeah.
So let's delve in first. Let's go in order of signings announced and stuff. Signings announced, we knew, and so forth. Jay Chapman, Mr. Spence.
Jay is a player that's super familiar to Danny and his assistant, whose name was in my head and dropped out of my head as soon as I started to say it. Because Nick Dazovich from times with Toronto, and you know that's where Jay came up. He's played. That's where he played most of his career. And essentially, he is an example of a homegrown player who got that rare second contract. Right? That doesn't happen very often in MLS. You see the big thing about homegrown player, they're signing a homegrown player, but most of those guys are signed to a 3-year deal where every year is after the first is club option. And so they can cut you loose at the end of the season whenever, and then they're never signed again. Because, you know, they're developmental projects and MLS doesn't put many resources toward actually developing players. So, of course, many of them die on the vine. And that happened to Jay. He got the second contract, but never could kind of break into what was kind of a Galacticos Toronto FC at the time, right? You know, he couldn't break into a starting midfield that included Michael Bradley.
Sebastian Giovinco too.
Yeah,
as well.
Giovinco. Yeah, Giovinco is more of a withdrawn forward, but yeah, he played with Giovinco. Scored a big goal for them late the season and the year they won the title. And you know, I think was generally a well thought of dude, but had a couple injuries and never, you know, had one injury in particular that kind of stalled his movement into the first team right as it was kind of getting momentum, and he just never got it back. So they didn't offer him another deal, and he's been a USL player since then. And it seems like a pretty good one, although he's full journeyman, right? Like he's into that mode in his career. He's played a year at like 3 different places and moves on. Last year he was at Charleston. You know, at the second half of the year he started with Hartford and wound up with Charleston. They dealt him for Charleston to load up for the stretch run. Yeah. And really, you know, Ben liked him. He quickly became a starter in Charleston's midfield last year. I think he's a guy. I think you would kind of tend to think of him as an 8. He likes to get into the attack, but he's not a 10, right? He's a connecting player. He's a guy who has a lot of energy and passes the ball well and can get stuck in a bit. But that's not his main focus. He's good with the ball. And while not being flashy, you know, he dribbles well but simply. He passes well and keeps it simple. And you know, seems to be a guy that has found a way into lineups everywhere he's been in USL. So I expect we'll probably see quite a bit of him. Yeah, I think it's a good start, you know, to building some midfield depth.
And then we have today's announcement, Atis Diop.
Well, Atis, you know, John Morrissey told me that he thought Atis was the best player in Division One the last 2 years. He's kind of puzzled why Lexington wasn't going with him, except that they're taking the step up and they've got more money, so you just kind of automatically all those guys are going, right? And I think that in John's mind, Atis has plenty to offer Lexington this year, but for whatever reason, they're just they want to get more expensive guys. And they like Lajop, he grew up right around Dakar, Senegal, like, you know, in the villages around there. And they both came through. I can't remember the name of the guy that started the
Was that Monteverde?
Monteverde is where they wind up in the United States, but there's an academy in Dakar that was founded by shit. Do I have this written down somewhere? It's a guy who played in the Premiership. I can't remember who it was, but he went home and started a like, hey, I want more Senegalese kids to have an opportunity to play overseas.
Was the USL, but what was Salif Zhao?
Salif Zhao, yes. So
it's
it's an example of generation on generation, like the kind of hand up or help up that, you know, that football used to be built upon, and that it still can be built upon. And so they came through as children. Salif Zhao's, like, you know, talent aggregator, and were hot enough prospects to get an opportunity to move to the United States when they were like, you know, like in middle school. I think Lai was 13 when he moved to the United States, and I think that I'm not sure, but I think Otis moved around the same time. They're very close, the same age. It is interesting that Otis says Dioff, and, you know, obviously Lai says Jop, because they're both DIO. But maybe it could be, we don't know, you know, what the deal is there. I think we used to say, I think they said Diop for a long time with Lai, and he just was too shy to tell people it was wrong.
Yeah, he just went with it.
Yeah, he's just like, sure, I know you mean me, huh?
He went along with it and didn't tell us. I think I remember when we interviewed him after he had that banner in 23. He's like, I called both. It's fine. I'm like, dude, what is it called?
Yeah. On the world's hottest pitch. Yeah, amazing. Okay, so. So what kind of player is Otis Jupe? He's tall, lanky. He was a much hotter prospect than the two guys we got in 2019, than Lijop and Musa Gay. Like he was kind of, I think he went right into like, was it Atlanta that he was working with? Like basically he got out of Monteverde and got snapped up by an MLS team. And Orlando City, right. And spent some time there. Kind of, I think he might have played some matches. I have notes somewhere, but I can't put my hands on them right now. Let me see.
Matches it looks like 17 matches in 2019 for Orlando City B, and then he went over to Austin
right.
Bold.
The Bold, yeah, he played full seasons on loan with Austin in 2020 and 2021, but really didn't have a lot of success. He was very young, right? Like you're talking about, he's 19, he's 20, on loan in Austin, Texas. He played, let's see, he played with San Antonio in 2022, but really didn't see the field much. And then he had a break. Then
11 appearances that year.
Right. It didn't see the field much. I think he got a few starts, but not much. Didn't score. And then Lexington was his breakout year. That was 2 years ago. He got 15 goals. Led the league. Or no, he didn't lead the league. Trevor Amon led the league, but he was second, I believe. He is a wing forward, but he's a guy who can play. He's probably not your number 9. I think he seems to like to play where he has a bit more space. So he'll play on the right. He'll play withdrawn behind a forward. And he really has a lot of dynamism. He's quick, and he's, you know, a tall, thin, quick dude who kind of slices around the pitch. And, you know, look up his highlights. I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, now, I think that the thing for me, looking at like what he's done, is that we're still really talking about potential until the last couple years, right? He wasn't producing. We weren't getting a lot of end product. Then he goes to Lexington and gets 15 goals, and then the next year has 11 goal involvements. He seems to like he's playing a little deeper, playing a little more creative role, and so he's really productive. And we'll see what we'll see here. I think that it's really notable how much this group has a lot more. It seems to have more offensive explosiveness than we've ever had.
Yeah,
we've always played college teams in the preseason, and we've always, pretty much always beaten them, but we haven't just skull fucked them the way that they've done to these college teams this preseason. Like just scoring shitloads of goals and kind of tearing. These college teams they're not in season, and they're really not looking to. They're probably gumming it up pretty hard once they're down 3-0 in the first 20 minutes or whatever, and we're still putting 8-10 goals up. And that's just not a thing that we've done in the past. Now, whether we're just more ruthless, and we just don't there's more competition, and so that's why we're kind of tearing these younger, less gifted teams up, or if it's truly that we just got more juice than we've had in the past, and so some of those nearly things are becoming goals. That's obviously what I'm hoping, the latter, because it would be lovely to see a Detroit City team that the first and only thing you worry about is getting shut out by them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone has ever feared our offense in the USL Championship. There's never been a team going out there like, man, I don't know how we're going to keep these dudes from scoring. Like, really, every match we've ever played in the USL Championship, the other side is so pissed when we score. They're not like, wow, these guys, they do it to everybody. So here they are doing. That's not how it happens. Like, they're like, God damn it. We should be able to shut these guys out. Like, we have not been intimidating offensively. I would love to see us be a little intimidating. Hopefully that'll happen.
I was looking at some of the last 4 or 5 matches Diouf played last year in Lexington. Because you mentioned it, like was a out and out more striker. He likes it the right wing, played the left wing a lot, featured as the 10. Couple matches played centrally, and even one match as a defensive mid. So there's a lot of versatility in this guy. And I remember. I
don't anticipate him getting minutes as a defensive mid.
No, we have enough players for that. I think I think your concerns earlier in the offseason about lack of midfielders is pretty solved now. But I do love our dear friend Sean Grogan with the juice notes. Just basically say he's fast as fuck. He's fast as fuck.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when the last time we had it's not a thing we've had a lot of, is the guy who gets you up off your feet. You know what I mean? Or gets you onto your feet. And honestly, a lot of that is really just a function of pace. Like, it's just down to pace. If you got a guy who can poke the ball in front of him and get going really fast, that's just compelling to watch. And we have not had that. I'm
sorry, Sean. Finish. You can finish.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I'm sure my thought wasn't that good. Go ahead.
I was going to piggyback off what you're saying here, that we really haven't had that guy. I mean, the last guy we really, that we had for a full season was, oh my God, why is he escaping me? Little French guy in the
Openo?
first.
Oh,
Yeah,
Openo?
Openo. He was kind of like that. He was really, Openo was really good on the ball. I really liked watching Openo on the ball.
Yeah.
Kisiedu last year, but we only had him for, a small handful of games.
Right.
Yeah, this is gonna be the first season that we're gonna see one of those guys, like you're mentioning, Sean, who kind of gets you off your feet a little bit.
Yeah.
And
like
that,
it's
but
gonna open up.
So I'm gonna take a little left turn here. This is weird, but I think that one of the underestimated things that like having a player with great pace, if that's what we're looking at here, it there are ripple effects through the other team that happen just because that guy is so fucking fast, right? And I'm thinking mostly of the Chicago Fire team that I covered back in the day that had an amazing winger named David Accam. Accam. I don't remember how they pronounce it, but because I never said it, I just typed it a lot. He was kind of an inside left, but just so lightning fast that you could see it distorting the other team's like line. Like they really didn't want to, they could not play as high as they wanted to because they knew that like really like the Fire don't have to do anything special, anything technical to release him if you're going to play a high line. He's just going to outrun you to the ball and get a shot on. And he was like, in his prime when he was, 24, 20, 25, 26, like he changed the way people played against the Chicago Fire, even those bad Fire teams. He was, I described it as like that kind of pace has a sort of gravity. It pulls the defense toward it and kind of pulls it out of shape and warps the shape in ways that the players start to recognize and can exploit. So, I'm very excited that we hopefully have someone who's, wicked fast because, I think it's one of those things that's so simple, but that you can see it kind of move through the other team. If you're like, that's something I pay attention to a lot is like kind of, how the players are receiving this thing and what kind of, compromises they make to try to find a solution. And usually what they do is, their ability to keep a offside line is completely destroyed and whoever's on the other wing is almost always open and not offside. So it's great. I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, and then we'll get into some of those preseason ass meetings that you were talking about. But the last player we'll highlight newcomer is a veteran to USL Championship and the game, Uruguayan 33-year-old Sebastian Guenzani.
Yeah, you want to talk about a grizzled USL veteran, and a veteran of the American lower leagues, right? He played for the Cosmos. Sebastian's been around. I would be terribly concerned if we found ourselves like dependent on him as a starting striker. But as a guy who can change the look and can give you quality minutes as a rotation option and is a leader, in training and, it has an established, high level in the league. Like you got to have some guys like that on the roster. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if he joins the coaching staff next year, like that it's maybe something like that. But, for this year, I really, I think it's interesting to have he's a very experienced target striker. If you've watched City matches in the last couple of years, you've seen him play, whether you know it or not, because he played for Indy and Tampa Bay, and he's just kind of doing an Eastern Conference tour, and he seems to be well liked everywhere he goes. So you need those kind of locker room guys, and I'm glad to have him in the city.
He also featured as in addition to playing some striker, he's also featured on the wing bid times last year as a right wing, as also a number 10. Although Adam made a good point, I'm looking at it. Fatma did him dirty because Sebastian Guanzati is not 5 foot, he's 5'10".
They say he's 5'3".
He says he's 5'1".
What?
Yeah. Adam's like, why is he 5'1"? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, he's not 5'1". I would say I think he's a little taller than 5'10", but maybe he just plays bigger or something. I don't know. He plays bigger than 5'10".
It makes you wonder if they kind of razz him a little bit in the locker room over that.
About being 5'1"?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Now starting at center forward, Hervé Villachez. Like, okay.
Get that
the ball.
The ball.
Oh my god. Great fucking
Let's get the passport thing figured out, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
So we go. Let's go into some results. Let's go into some results.
Yes. Read the results.
Yeah. So
I was trying not to start talking about politics.
We're gonna call this the beatdown of kids preseason because essentially, other than one matchup against Lexington SC, we have been playing college kids in the Barcelona Academy U19. So first friendly 8-0 over Georgetown College. Second friendly Lexington SC 0-1. Both of those were in Lexington. Then we went to the desert. A beatdown of Barcelona, the Barca Academy U19, which any beatdown of Barcelona is approved by us here at the age of Detroit, especially our hermano Jaime Pedro Ventura for obvious reasons that you may not understand. That was a 5-0 win that day. Then we played what was this one? This was the Pima Community College. That was a 4-1 down. And then we played, the last one was against Phoenix College, 8-1. Couple notes so far. Matt Sheldon's getting in the goals, even getting in on the goals in the preseason. Jessiel Cedeno, we were talking about somebody that we made more of this year. Hat trick in the first game, and also given the number 10 this year.
Wow. Go Jessiel. I mean, I would love, I think he does have some juice, and I hope that we find a way to get it out of him, because if you can, that is one of the keys to being competitive in this league, I think, is being able to bring guys on, and there's so many of the teams in this league kind of reset every year, and everyone that wasn't a lockdown starter is just see you later, we're going to try again, and I just feel like that is a really wasteful and disrespectful way to run a football side. And so, being able to get a guy like Jessiel and see okay, he's got something to him, but we've got, we need to get a little more out of him. We're going to have to do some work before he's ready to take that next step, really. And to be able, to take that on as okay, this is a project we're going to do, and not just be well, I hope he gets better, because if not, we're fucking firing him. You have to take responsibility for making the players better. And it really feels like this coaching staff is really actively involved in that process. When you look at somebody like Jessiel.
I was using the Cy Goddard treatment, Sean.
I mean,
he was. I mean, you're right. I mean, he was. I liked what he did in Oakland, and you could see why he's brought over. His ability to create chances, and something that City has always needed too. You know, a guy that can get in there and create chances, and it didn't seem to fully furnish itself last season. So yeah, you're hoping that that can kind of he could find that heading into this year. And
Right.
you're right though. I mean, it is. I mean, it's almost like USL Championship. These teams, it's like a fantasy football team where you sit there and you get rid of almost your entire roster. Heading into the new season, you bring on this entirely new team, and it's hard to generate some type of cohesiveness amongst these players. And I think that's something that worked for City very, very well, especially with that transition between NISA and USL Championship. I think, I'm guessing that Trevor, was capitalizing off of that, capitalizing off those relationships and that cohesion from NISA to USL Championship. And it worked. It worked for him. The Detroit was more successful than I thought anybody could have thought they would have been that first season USL Championship. But I agree with you. I mean, it's you want that cohesion. You don't want to see them kind of get rid of the 70% of the roster at the end of every season.
Right. If you go back and look, they absolutely capitalized on the cohesion from NISA and the confidence, because they had really just kind of stomped their way through NISA. They were very sure of how they were going to be competitive. And if you look at that roster from 2022, it's it's just not very good. You know what I'm saying?
It's very thin too. Very thin.
Yeah. And I remember Trev was kind of he doesn't, he doesn't say he's panicking ever, but I think he really was kind of man, I wish we'd gone into League One. He's just okay, given the money I have to spend and the players I've already got available, I just pretty much have to kind of go samesies. We don't have enough money to hire really anybody at a starter level very much at that level, at that first year. And because we didn't have USL Championship revenues, but we had to do USL Championship outlay that first year. You know what I mean? So it was really tough. But they were incredibly cohesive, and had a defensive spine that was really rugged and just didn't let games get out of hand. So they were always in every match in a way that's really, usually a team moving up like that, like keeping other teams from kind of going rampant on them is usually more of the problem, the defense has always been great since Trev got here.
They sent 6 players from that first season too on this team.
Yeah. I mean, most of the defense is still here.
And they got stronger with acquisitions.
Right. Yes. And then then they built a more professional roster year on year around them. And we're going to start to, in the next few years, get to the point where we've got to replace those OG NISA guys. Stevie's going to retire, right? At some point. And that's going to be interesting to see how we handle that. Because really we haven't had to go search for defenders, if somebody was interested, okay, we'll look at, but we haven't been desperate for defenders. We've been desperate for everything else, but not defenders. So I don't know. It'll be interesting when we get there. We're not there yet though.
Some constants that I've been seeing so far in these starting 11s for these preseason schedule. Carlos Saldana in goal. Stephen Carroll, Demulamo Mensa, Michael Bryant. Sometimes if it's not Michael Bryant, it's Shane Wheat. Maury Dona on the right-hand side. Seems like they've done more of that back 3, back 5 than the back 4. Reese Williams with Alex Villanueva on the left. I'm really curious because Reese Williams has the ability with both feet, which you both have heard me bitch incessantly about professional footballers and I think their ability that they should want to and should be able to use both feet. Reese has that tangent. I'm curious if Reese on the left is more inside inverted or more he's going to use his left foot for like low and high crosses. Marcelo Polisi, Haruki Yamazaki, either with Jay Chapman or Josiel Cedeno or Atis Diouf. And then you also got Darren Smith, Ben Morris, and Sebastian Guanzati often being in the forward lines. Two players that have not featured lately in preseasons that we do have updates for. Lai Jop, you kind of heard us talk about a little bit at the end of last season, some maybe early on into the preseason. Dealt with a sports hernia issue at the end of 2024. In fact, it kept him out of the playoff match because of flare-up. Procedure had to be done in the offseason. He is on the road to recovery and progressing well. The next competitive friendly for Detroit City FC, which is this Sunday in Brighton against the Toronto SC2 Academy, Lyshoff hopefully able to get some minutes in that. So the other one is the city engine that always can, and that is Connor Rutz. Maintaining fitness with the team, but Sean, you made a good point in our chat earlier today that it seems like Connor always has some slight tweak of something in preseason as it's ramping up. I think it was the groin in 2022, knee or shin in 23, if I recall right.
Like shin splints, maybe.
Yeah, it's splints. And then this year it's the knee. So it's all right now for Connor is caution, abundance, rest right now.
Right.
Basically, as his activity increases, how's the pain tolerance?
Right. I mean, yeah, that sounds like the way Tiffany described it. Described it as a use injury, and then they talk about pain, and so that makes me think that he, what I'm guessing happened is he was frustrated with not being, fit to, claim his, like he's had to kind of grind his way into the lineup the last 2 years. And I have a feeling he was frustrated with that and worked out too hard,
like size on, he got bigger last year too.
Yeah.
You saw how.
Yeah. So, I mean, he has taken responsibility for improving himself, as a player and as an athlete. And, that's exactly what you want from a player. Like I just, I've got no complaints about the way Connor's going about things. It just seems like, this sounds like it's a, you got in your grind a little too much and now your knee is really, you're probably like, it's just a little pain, and you keep going, and then it gets worse and worse, and you finally feel like, okay, I actually have to tell work about this. Like I'm not going to be able to do all this running they want me to do. And, I don't know. I hope he gets if it's inflammation, I hope it goes down quickly, and then he can be in the mix from the beginning this year and not have to, be like Superman in training for 3 months straight to break into the lineup again. Because that's got to be exhausting.
So I suppose the question I'm at, when you're seeing the makeup of this squad right now, once with Elijah in there, do you see him taking one of those spots right now inhabited by a Marcelo Polisi or Haruki Yamazaki, maybe playing a bit higher? And with Connor Rutz, do you also see him competing in that middle portion or potentially playing, getting some minutes either on the width or basically being that withdrawn striker, or occasionally pacey guy like he was with Ben, which worked very effectively at the end of last season?
Yeah, I think that if this injury goes into the season at all, then what we'll probably see is Connor used as like a change-up player off the bench. And there's the season has distinct kind of phases, and the early phase is not very match heavy. Usually it's one a week. Like, you don't need to do a lot of rotating to guys aren't exhausted when another match is coming up. But as we get into warm weather, and especially the back half of summer, it really feels like that it gets crazy draining. You're playing in the heat, and you're playing twice a week a lot, and that's where we're going to me, if we enter the season with Connor kind of really not able to go, then it seems to me likely that the staff will plan to make sure that he's good to go when the match pileup begins. You don't want to like bring him back, try to push him to, do some sub appearances early and set him back to just in such a way that, now at the end of May, he's not available. And when we really need, all hands on deck, because we're going to be, pulling guys in and out and rotating the starting lineup and trying to really juggle minutes to keep guys healthy and in the, in that prime zone where they can compete. That's something we understand more and more of every year. And it's knowledge that soccer particularly has taken on board in a real way, and it's now part of the kind of economy of the game. Basically, is how do you navigate multiple weeks of multiple matches in a row, where everyone plays a hard pressing, lots of sprinting variant of football. Like there's nobody in the world playing like low block, laconic, old school, like tiki taka. Like that shit is dead. Pressing killed it, and pressing continues to kill it. So that's what one of the things that dominates the game now. And yeah,
So, you're pointing it out, because something I've seen this was, and I've seen it a little bit in our style of play, especially as we've gotten more guys that can run a little bit. This is the iteration I think where we have the most, but I've seen it a little bit in like Ben Morris things, where the Stephen Carroll type ball center back will play a ball, little looper, and sometimes even the keeper in certain positions will play a ball over the top like that into your ranging forward, because eventually it's like you want to either stretch a team by making them width, or north-south the shit out of them, kind of like a running gun style. And that's like you utilize the strength.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good demonstration that of the kind of ultimate variability of football. Like that's one of the really fantastic things about it, is that there's not a right and a wrong way to do it, and there's no clock, and there's no like basketball used to have this, right? Mm-hmm. But they found it boring. The fact that you could stall a game by now I'm talking about back in, I'm an old Hoosier, right? So, back in the day, you could literally sit on the ball, like just put it down and sit on it. People would do that to like stall a game out. Like, we got a 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. We're just not going to play anymore. And, it's a thing you can kind of do in football. And so, basketball got a shot clock and all these things to kind of keep it moving. And that really, really limits the space for solutions, right? You and then once you add the 3-point line, that limits it even further. Like you think you're expanding it, but you're really just saying like every other shot is devalued. And football has resisted the temptation to tinker with its basic structure, and I commend it for doing so. So like the hot way to play now typically is to the assumption is everyone's going to press. And so there's a couple different ways teams have worked out to handle that. There's the kind of De Zerbi method at Brighton, but you see it everywhere, where you kind of stand on the ball deep and make them come play you, and then try to quickly transition. Basically, you're trying to create transitions out of non-transition moments. Like you have steady possession, but still the chance that you're creating has the defenders facing their own goal. And that's the ideal. Or you could do it even an older way, which is simply go over the top. And like Nottingham Forest, right? They have done astonishingly well against all of these pressing teams, kind of just by like being willing to go long. And
yeah.
I think that most modern managers don't have the kind of
It's just
they don't have the same reaction to going long that like maybe like there was a lot more dogmatism against playing the ball out long, say 15 years ago. I would say like it was considered like you weren't even trying to play football. You were just giving up and hoofing it. But now that we've seen pressing really, like what pressing has done to the game, how pressing has completely dominated the evolution of the last 15 years of football since tiki-taka, really. That going over the top is no longer seen as like giving up or being ashamed. It's canny, it's smart,
Yeah.
And that is why you need a dude like Atis Diouf or Diouf on your roster, because you need a really quick guy to make that work. There's a lot of really good athletes in defenses in the USL Championship. So if you're just kind of middle fast, you need a couple yard head start to get a shot off. And that's what we've had up to now. Ben is fast, but he's middle fast. I think Atis is different gravy. So.
And yeah, I think that's kind of like the way you look, like Atis in space, nightmare. Haruki Yamazaki speed in close situations, how he can like get it there. Mix in then with now. We talked about this in another thing. What are some of our acquisitions? Maybe a little bit more aggressiveness in us too. When you look at like the Marcelo position and wanting to stick in the tackle, and even like a Jay Chapman and like work rate. It's with the Danny DQ and the Dasovich connection. It's being extensions of our managers and our coaches. And what was the term you used, Sean? You said something like thuggin' buggin'. Is that what you said it was? I think. But you know what I mean? It's establishing our will in a way.
Right. Yeah, you like
haven't done before.
There's that, like, it's a very primate thing to do, right? You're kind of dealing at a level of sort of below the game when you're doing these sort of things. This is not part of football. It's a part of being a living creature. And what you're trying to do in those moments is establish that you have the authority. It's a dominance, play essentially, and you're hoping to create a sense in the other side that that you're overwhelming, that you're inevitable, that you are that you're so far ahead of them and so much more robust than them that it makes sense to just relax and let this happen. So yes, I am comparing it directly to the fascism that's happening in our country right now, but it is what it is. But that is what that is, and for that reason, while I understand it, and I don't mind my teams having it 100%. Like, it's not my favorite thing, right? I just like I wish that we lived in a different reality where primate posturing was not part of anything, but we do not, and I like live less in that reality now than at any time in my life. So yeah, it's cheerful.
Let's also talk about what when we get to this is a good transition topic because you talked about that, but let's talk about something of progression. And that's also a great transition to opening up our segment on the women. Elisa Barron.
Elisa Barron, right. That's the progression. When you talk about growing a club, what does that mean? Does it mean you have more kids in the academy? Well, maybe you have more salespeople. Yeah, probably. But really, the things we care about, the football things, are you're increasing the medical staff, you're increasing the coaches, you're getting some data guys in. That's what makes the football, right? And Elisa is fabulously qualified for this job, and also she's City. She's one of the. Did she come in the second year of the women's program, or was she an OG?
I think she was an OG.
Okay, yeah. So she's been here as a player, and I think she was just graduated from school and was working at MSU. She was working with Olympians, right? She is a physical performance trainer. She helps professional athletes get that last 2 to 5% out of their bodies, and she did that for Olympians, and now her full-time job is doing that for the guys on our team. And that's hugely encouraging that we are at a point where we can afford really a specialist like that. We can say, okay, this is something we need. We need everybody to to wring every bit of stamina and pace out of these guys' bodies that we can.
Yeah, and also somebody that was featuring double dipping as well. If you think about it in the winter, not only being involved with the first team as the sports performance coach and progressing on the role she started to do at the end of the W League season for the remaining part of the men's season.
Yeah.
Also playing on this indoor side.
Right. Yeah. Part of the MASLW side. Although I don't think she's featured yet, but she's, she had that terrible knee injury. And I think she's still a little bit, she's not 100% confident on it.
I think the last match she featured in was the first one against Indiana, because after that there was the Lexington trip for the men, which was
right. Yeah. That's cool though. Yeah, I mean, the growing the coaching staff. Understand we're not pushing the upper boundaries of the USL Championship, structures here. We're still doing remedial work at building the infrastructure of the club, because really to compete at the level that we're at, the typical coaching staff is not 4 guys. It's 12, right? And then they'll have a couple data guys that really aren't listed there. They'll have some training people that that aren't on the coaching staff but are at training every day, and just we need those at some level. It's easy to say well, what is that going to bring us? I've heard people say things like that, but I mean, we're talking about adding dedicated professionals who are pretty much laser focused. Like that's the kind of people that get into doing things in sports because it's insanely competitive. And so, every person you're adding to one of those staffs is adding a lot to the staff. At least as a perfect example. So, I mean, this like what I'm saying is I think we have reason for optimism overall, and specifically with the women because they're already doing it, right? I think as of now, Detroit City is the only club in MASLW who've won every match without having to use overtime. Because if the match ends drawn, they go to overtime. I didn't know that because we've never had to experience it because we win every match by like 6 goals. I will say that it's interesting to look at the national website because there are some other teams out there that are putting up crazy numbers. There's one from Chihuahua.
Yes.
Chihuahua Savage. There's a Chihuahua. The Savage are savage. Like they're right now after 10 matches, they have 150 goals for and 34 against. Their best player is on the books for FC Juarez. So she's like a professional. But they just lost. They had a shock loss, so they're like 9-1. And it's hard to see where City drops points before the playoffs at this point because they're playing in Iowa, and this is Iowa's first home match. But I mean, Iowa lost to Kalamazoo pretty badly and just barely beat Indiana. So like I don't know. I don't know who's I don't know who's going to check us.
Adam, do I want to drop when we were talking about Chihuahua Savage on 451 on Tunnel Talk earlier in the week and what I mentioned that another way you can the term Chihuahua Savage where you can apply that to?
I mean, if you want to.
Man. Well, I mean, with an enthusiastic endorsement like that.
And go ahead.
You clearly can't go wrong.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I just hope she gives you 2 kicks in the nuts after this, since you're bringing it up twice. But go ahead.
I mean, Sean's helped endorse it with me in 2. He'll probably just get kicked in the shins. I'll probably get it both and everything on there.
What is happening right now? I think I'm lost.
No, Sean, Adam didn't realize that you heard the nickname. So,
the Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my research. Looked up some of their players. Like, oh wow, okay, so they've got some players.
They can ball like this MASLW W League team. So Detroit City FC is in the halfway point of the MASLW regular season, which is wild that we've gotten this. It's already this far. I was there on Saturday. I took the last 2 matches before that via the stream. Great job, as mentioned, to all the team on the productions. Multiple camera angles. Jared Mackey, Dave Dwayne on the first 2. Jared Mackey and Sean Grogan on the last one. Between that, the Chad Aiello cam. Although Abby's pissed. Abby was pissed. Abby didn't realize that he was seen in the Chad Aiello cam crushing and smashing a hot dog, and then he learned he was in. Because I told him after, he's like, "You're joking, right?" I'm like, "Oh no,
no." No. Yeah, you were hungry, huh?
Those broadcasts though are pretty great though.
They're fantastic. They're just the right chaos,
I loved Dwayne like making the Alyssa announcement before he was supposed to make the Alyssa announcement, and Mackie having to like pull him back and be like, "No, we didn't announce that yet." And Dwayne's like, "Oh,
all
right."
I mean, it is hard when you're like when you're working there, like it's a small community, right? There's not that
Yeah.
many people, so everybody knows everything. Like, oh hey, and everybody just tells everybody everything. So, like, it's really easy to just be like, of course everybody knows. Nope, nobody knows that. Oh, all right. Never mind. Never mind. It's cool. I wasn't going to say anything. Yeah. I really love the vibe of the broadcasts. I think it is. I think they ought to hype the broadcast a little more. Not in broadcast. I'm saying that, like, find some way to get more eyes on that on YouTube, because that shit is gold, and I think it is a fantastic recruitment tool for Detroit City's women's program, because
Oh yeah, yeah,
we are,
definitely.
like, they're fucking good. They crush people. That it's bananas. It's fun. It feels really feels very like ABA. You ever, like, the original American Basketball Association,
Mhm.
with the red, white, and blue ball, Dr. J, and all that shit. Like, it just kind of, like, it was funky.
The
And
OG line before the NBA
exactly, the
adapted.
OG 3-point line. And that's kind of what the MASL, like, broadcasts feel like to me, is that, like those old ABA, like, just kind of, we got some ball and then we got some crazy shit too. Let's get fuck up. Um,
I mean, the
Slam
fact too
dunk
that they went out and like upgraded their equipment for this. I mean, you're not seeing teams, I'm sure, across the
oh yeah,
MASLW, like, upgrading their broadcast equipment to, broadcast these games. So yeah, I mean,
right,
that's my presumption. That's my
right. I
presumption.
mean,
But
the picture and quality difference is dramatic. You can see, like, the old streams, the ball was just sort of a round thing. You couldn't see how it was rolling. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or spinning. And now you can't. Like, and so you get a really cooler appreciation for how good some of these women are on the ball. Like, you can really see it. You can see how Tatiana can just kill it. Like, the ball's kind of
Mhm.
coming at her crazy, and she just, like, lays it down. Like, that's enough of that. And how like wicked Kayla is when she's running straight at you. Like, oh my god! Like, I think it was her second goal last match, where she just, like, she basically gave one like step over inside, but mostly just ran straight at the near post with the ball at her foot and then smashed it in. It was like, oh shit! Like, she did that little jab step. It was almost like a basketball move, at full speed, and, like, the defender just kind of, like, evaporated. Just like, um, like, and the broadcast has enough quality now to really let you see that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like 8-bit, nostalgia.
The
Yeah.
5 matches, 5 wins, 50 goals scored, 15 allowed, 2 goals allowed in the games. For indoor soccer, giving up only 3 in a game is fucking wicked. So is scoring 10 a game. So, Sean,
Yeah.
I'll ask you the question that we dropped and discussed about in Tunnel Talk. What's more impressive about this team, 50 scored or the 15 allowed?
I think the defense is more impressive. I think we are a very good offense, but we're not, like, Chihuahua averages 15 goals a game. 15. Like, there's another notch you can go to. But they let in more than we do. And yeah, I mean, 3 goals a game is like, half a goal a game in the outdoor game. Like, it's just really impressive. And the team, they look like a team now. They're all so comfortable playing this style. And you've seen their ideas evolve. They do this one. There's one thing that I don't know if it's something Danny's had them work out or something that has just worked out naturally, but they're doing that like you do a runner on like the ball's on the strong side, right? Maybe a third of the way out. And they'll get a runner on the weak side, like it's like a backdoor cut in basketball.
Yeah.
And they center the ball to that runner who tries to finish first time. And when it works, it looks like it's like, oh my God, that's always there. And on if teams do that to us, like it feels like our defenders are aware enough, especially Shannon, who is like kind of otherworldly as a defender, like really fucking good. They see those runs coming. They'll step to them. They're also like Shannon's also like so physical. It's like she'll just put an arm bar on that. You're trying to run past her, and she's like, no, you're falling down is what's happening. And I mean, yeah, and Gabby was always good in the indoor game, but seems like she's gotten even better. Has a lot of flexibility. Sometimes plays as like a traditional goalkeeper, which is kind of unusual in the indoor game, and other times plays as that full sweeper where she's getting out, and kind of like covering the left flank basically, while we're in steady possession. And
I think I was going to say it's also wild too. In the last matchup, Gabby Shriver didn't even start in that. Kirsten.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was a team that we had already kind of had the measure of, so we felt like it was safe to rotate. Not going to see a lot of shots, and it's not like the backup is bad, I thought she looked really good, honestly. But our defensive kind of cohesion and ability to score, goals in lightning bunches, it's so like it has to be so frustrating to play against us, because like these teams hang in there for a while. They'll come out like, okay, this is the best team in our division. They really come out like motivated, got some good thoughts about how they're going to cause us problems, and it works for a while. And then they'll make a little mistake and we'll score a goal, and then we'll score another and another and another, like in like 3 minutes, and it's like, this was close, like 8 heartbeats ago. Like, what the fuck? It's just it has to be so frustrating to get blitzkrieg like that, and then slowly crawl back in it, and then they do it again to you like in the third quarter. Like, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I think this team is hugely impressive, and I think they should be like, if as long as they return these players, like the top, say, 15 players, like they should be thinking that a national title is the thing that they're going for, like every year. To me, like that. I mean, they're really, really fucking good.
Usual suspects that have been also crushing it, or like we mentioned Kayla Addison and a Crump, but then also like Fatima Nasser, who's gotten stuff for middle of the
so
field.
Good, so good.
Yeah, and that had against Indiana 2 weeks ago.
I really loved when she scored the goal, and the whole team was clearly like psyched for her. like the celebrations were voluble. It was nice.
Maya Romeo, 2 goals last week, also coming in like for roll pace, like that back door, like, hey, she gets like the stretch pass there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an interesting player. Obviously there's another one. I think it's like a left-footed midfielder. Long last name.
Claire?
No, not Claire Chilino.
Hold on. I think I know.
God. Well, I don't have the roster up in front of me, so of course I immediately start a roster question.
Zoe Greenhalgh?
Yes. She's interesting. Like I don't think I quite suss what she's up doing or what she's about, but I like what I've seen so far. And I'm interested to see, like, is she somebody that's going to also be an outdoor player? Like we've like the depth is great. Like you got players like Amanda Britton coming off the bench, and she's like a fantastic, just athlete. Like she covers a lot of ground. She's smart and flexible, like tactically, like I mean, it's just there's a lot of quality there.
Yeah, like saying even like Katie Coleman as well. There's so many players that have
Hannah Crum.
Yeah,
like what a fucking like Hannah Crum. You could write I should write a whole essay about her. Like a straight up junkyard dog who also like is lethal from set pieces. Just good shit. Like
we've seen Hannah score the same type of goal outdoor. That slow lowering left foot shot that just sticks to the ground on the right, like from and just far post to keeper. Like we've seen that same type of goal scored indoor and outdoor, which is impressive. Alex Stefan and Iadel. I mean, and not only that too. In each of these 5 matches that I watched a tiny bit of the first match in Portage around Christmas time. The other 4 that have been at home, there have been different ways the beatdown has occurred. Sometimes it's aggressive tempo and goals. Other times it's slow, suffocating pace. This time it was just hey, we got nothing in the first period, but we're going to get you anyway. And when we get you, we get you. That was the last match. I think it's wild. Like they're showing their woodwork. And now, as we get into the final 5 of this regular season, it starts off this weekend with 2 in Iowa against the Iowa Demon Hawks.
The Demon Hawks. I'm totally having Demon Hawks in my next D&D game.
Saturday, February 22nd, Sunday, February 23rd. Then the Demon Hawks come to the field house for the home finale on March 1st, which is also Kill the Keg Day.
Yep.
Yeah. Demon Hawks.
Where we fully pivot to like getting cold as fuck for a while.
Yeah.
This is true.
So
I think they say 30 days right now. I'm looking at it on my phone as I'm walking back home from work, and it's like 12 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's 12 degrees.
Oh yeah, 30 days. That sounds fucking great right now.
Especially if the fucking we can't access the media tent at the home opener because they shoveled all the damn snow off.
Sorry guys, we put the snow where you go. Like, that's fine.
It'll be a balmy 32 degrees out.
Right. But with a gentle 27 mile an hour wind blowing from the media corner up diagonally across the pitch.
Just remember that time I climbed the snow mountain where the VIP bar normally is to grab a fucking soccer ball in the second half? Yeah, that's what I fucking did last year.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm glad I didn't fucking bite it then. So the 3 against Iowa, Indiana United, Kalamazoo United away March 8th, and Indiana United away March 15th.
Yeah.
10-0?
But I mean, like, yeah, I think so. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful of these other teams. Like they all have women who can play, and they all like have produced moments that troubled City. But unfortunately, football is not about moments. It's about accumulations of moments, and City accumulates just a fuckload more than anybody else in the division. My only concern at this point is that they might not have turned it up to the level necessary to be successful in the playoffs, because we're just like in the club and baby seals business, and like having to actually fight someone with a club is a different deal. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing I'm worried about right now. I do not foresee these women losing a match, and frankly, if they did, it would come across as such a weird fluke that you'd think, okay, well, this is probably just going to piss them off, right? Like, this group seems extremely determined and you know, the eyes on the horizon kind of group of women.
Moving to W League, we have a May 17th.
Another eyes on the horizon group of women.
Yeah. May 17th start, June 28th finish, 10 matches in that time frame, 4 on Wednesdays. Not as many as the 12 that we've had in regular seasons the last few years. AFC Ann Arbor, who are not dead, as we thought they might be.
Yeah. When the schedule came out, I'm like, what?
AFC Ann Arbor, Midwest United, Kalamazoo FC, the 3 that we've come to know. Cleveland Force went over to the Great Forest Division with the other 5 teams that were formed. One of many, I think there were 25 new expansion teams in W League this coming year. The 2 new teams in the Great Lakes Division, we talked about an old MPSL foe in Toledo Villa, and we talked about Union FC Nacombe, aka what was the Nationals FC thing. And we 2 months ago, Sean Spence made a very well-known documented pitch. We plugged that. What was even great about that, as Lily Jekyll, who is both mainly Nationals FC and Detroit City FC in the Aussies, announced for her U.S. national team call up. Congratulations. Her tweet was hashtag the Nationals way plus hashtag DCTID equals flex emoji.
You're gonna have to choose, Lily. You're gonna have to choose, though.
I'm reading it. I'm reading it as Sean Spence.
Union, yeah.
Sean Spence, your words have impact, because it sounds like she's meshing the worlds together to make herself a superhuman badass.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, like, from what I understand, and I would be glad to be told I'm wrong, but from what I understand from my limited knowledge about Lily's life, like, she is essentially a professional athlete already. Like, she is not, you know, living a professional athlete's life, but I mean, the way she trains and the seriousness of her intention are at that level. You know, she is not someone who's like enjoys playing a bit of soccer. She's a fucking soccer player. Like, that's it. Like, she's a footballer. And she is going to get paid to play this game, whether by us or by someone, very soon. Her call up to the under 17 youth national team is really, to me, overdue. You're talking about somebody who was was the best player, like the MVP. I think it was Golden Ball, Golden Shoe. One of those is like top scorer. One of those is MVP, right? So, like, 1 year, I think she was maybe her 12-year-old year, she was the MVP, and like her 13-year-old year, she was the top scorer in the national youth like playoff finals with the Nationals. Like, she has been at that national championship level, like, basically the last 4 or 5 years, and has not received a national team call up until now. So, like, it's so well deserved, and of course I'm thrilled for her. It's brilliant. I just hope that this doesn't mean that she gets called into a camp that goes for most of June, where they play like 2 friendlies against Columbia, and so we don't see her all summer, because that could happen too. She could fly right into orbit and we could just watch her come by once a day or whatever. So, you know, that might happen, but I'm delighted that she, you know, like, gets it. That is extremely cool. And I hope to see her in the spirit of Detroit Crest once again. I haven't really talked to Dave. I think I'm overdue to start poking him about his recruitment this year. But I have a little suspicion that it might be kind of special, like that we might be trying. There might be a situation where talent is attracting talent, and our success last year means that we can kind of really talk to people about maybe win a national title with us, right? And if that's the case, I am extremely excited.
It goes a little. I mean, that carries a. Let me say that carries a little bit more weight too, Sean, than being like, oh, hey, you want to come and play, a couple of months with us to, stay fit in between your college seasons. Go to a recruit and saying, hey, do you want to win a national championship in USL W League?
Right.
That carries more weight.
Well, and adding having players, like football's like a town, right? A small town, and the word of you, like each club is sort of an idea in that town, right? So the idea spreads as players get into it and out of it. So I think what we're seeing is the idea of Detroit City starting to spread within the women's game, and spread explosively, because there's a lot of pent up demand for women's football. We've been the world leader. The United States has been the world leader in creating female footballers for a long time, but we haven't really created a lot of female football, right? It's been a thing that you do in college or whatever, and that is the fact that it's changing and we're pivoting toward club teams and professionalism is extremely exciting to me, and I'm really hopeful that we can continue this momentum that we started last year, and that that Dave will. Dave is not a guy who's going to hang on too long. You know what I mean? One of the remarkable things about Dave Dway, he is his grace, both physically, because he is graceful as a footballer, but as a person, he's incredibly graceful, and he's never hard to be around, never hard to connect with, and so I think that I really think that as soon as there's a woman who fits the culture and has the right badges, he'll be like, I'm gonna watch from over here. Yeah. So the women's program is all arrows up, and really the men's is too. I do want to say, before we get into what USL is doing, that there is space in the current situation to doubt what the men have done so far. I think maybe Morrissey gave the off season a D+, and he's not impressed with the midfield additions except for Haruki, and we'll have to see. I think that you don't always get it right, right? Talent isn't always what decides it. If it were, Skagga Simonson would still be in this league and dominating, right?
Yeah.
So, we'll see. There's so many ways football can go wrong. But I do think that these additions, this looks like this seems like a team to me. The roster, I look at it, I'm like, okay, I can think how this group is going to play. Probably, I think you're going to see a more physically assertive style of football. Maybe even like, and like if you went full like combative Millwall football in Detroit, I don't know that would go over poorly at all. I think,
Yeah.
This is the city that loved the bad boys, right?
Men or women?
Huh? I'm talking about men.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, I'm basically I just wanted to we are being very positive right now, and I think we are right to be positive. However, I want to recognize. I just want that person who's sitting at home thinking, these fucking turds don't know, or there's they're over their skis on this. They're just jerking off. They love Detroit City and think it's awesome. Well, we do love Detroit City, and we do think it's awesome.
So you're trying to say.
But if this were, if I honestly thought that the people they were bringing in weren't going to make a cohesive side, I would say so, and I don't know. I want to say that I recognize that there is a parallel possibility of talking about these roster additions as not sufficiently impressive in an Eastern Conference that is loaded for bear. Yeah. You got Charleston buying Cal Jennings, and Louisville's sold a couple kids and brought in even more expensive, older dudes. It's there is a possibility that we're better, but everyone else is more better. But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Women final note. So it's Ann Arbor away May 17th, Saturday night, Pioneer. 4 matches at home immediately after May 24th, May 28th, May 31st, June 7th. Union Macomb, May 24th, the second game. There's 2 women's doubleheaders. Saturday, May 24th, men Charleston, women Union Macomb. June 21st, men home to Miami, women home to Ann Arbor. That June 21st is the final women's regular season home match. Away matches, there's of the 4 Wednesday matches in the league, 3 are away at Union Macomb and Utica on Wednesday, June 11th. I will give restaurant recommendations closer to that day. That's grounds. That is my old fucking high school. The last time I was at that stadium was 2007, I think, watching my alma mater beat Utica Ike, which in football never fucking happened. June 18th, Midwest United. Last 2 matches are on the road at Toledoville, at Kalamazoo. So the playoff format will likely change a little bit also too, because now that there's 4 divisions in these conferences as opposed to 3 with the amount of new teams, that might change some things. It was announced on the W League website that the playoff format will be announced closer to the regular season. So, one also fun note about this women's team, as we talked about Elisa Barron, Adam will know this is maybe one of my favorite sound bites I've ever gotten, either in our interviews or in just general conversations with people. Handshake line after the national semifinal loss last year. Lisa Barron, we're talking and Lisa Barron, as we've talked about, has been an OG in this women's side, right? Talked about where we were and where we are, and she goes, she has this moment, right, where she's walking, she pauses and she looks and she's like, you know what? We're not going to have this next year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's fucking go. And I told Adam, how was it 2 days later that you made the fucking graphic for that?
I think it was that night or that following day.
Yeah. But that's like, all right. You hear that on July 13th, 2024, after an extra time loss in the national semifinal. You're like, let's fucking go. Let's do this again. And
Yeah.
that's football right there. Speaking of football, talk about USL. Well, let's talk real quick on this before we get into USL, because we could talk about this for 30 fucking minutes.
Dear God. 4-hour podcast.
The NASL antitrust lawsuit court ruling. Your thoughts real quick, which wound up being a segue to the next fucking topic in real life.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a disappointing ruling. The main takeaways for me were the bits of discovery that demonstrated that the thing that, you know, like a bunch of crazy nerds on the internet had been claiming back in the aughts, which was that MLS controlled U.S. soccer and, you know, contemptuously did what it wanted to do and used U.S. soccer's imprimatur as a rubber stamp, that is amply demonstrated in the discovery from this lawsuit, that Sunil Gulati and Don Garber affected a takeover of the people set to provide guide rails for them, and then you know, made the landscape in American soccer what it is today. Now, and like, that's something we've decried for years, and it's become clear as time has gone on. Like, I think that has become kind of common knowledge. It's one of those things that, like, you know, nobody believes you, and then everybody believes you eventually. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, that, like, okay, yeah, okay, clearly they just run U.S. soccer, and U.S. soccer are their gimps, and that's just what's up. So that, you know, that's clear. That's what's. But the actual decision was, you know, I don't think it really will wind up mattering now. The fact that the lawsuit is resolved has seemed to open the dam for things to actually happen in the U.S. soccer space, which I assume means that U.S. soccer is chastened by the clear, you know, by the clear evidence of the suborning of their mission for the last 2 decades. And that, so, you know, now we got Sean McDonough out there, and he's talking. He does an interview where he's like, yeah, okay, promotion and relegation, that's what we're going for. Obviously, they've applied for the USL applied for first division status. I guess I shouldn't say obviously. Maybe you don't know that. That's the big thing we're talking about here, is that USL has, just like the Super League did to NWSL, said, okay, well, you know, we don't think you serve enough markets in this massive country to claim solitary first division status, and really can't see a way toward you being that big. Like, you know, MLS is probably not going to have 70 or 80 teams in it. And that's like the minimum size you need. So, you know, they're just like, okay, well, we're just going to start another Division One league, and run it, you know, according to the rules of the world of football, and not make up our own fucked up weird rules, and that are like, because we're not trying to design a loss-proof tax shelter for billionaires. We're just trying to make football clubs and like set up like, you know, leagues for them so they can play each other. That's the entire remit. You don't have to, like, you know, we don't have to design a structure that allows everyone to pay in, and like, yeah, fuck that. Let's just make a soccer league. And to me, it makes a lot of sense, you know, because really, what is USL's pitch? like if you're not going to, like, what other differentiator do you have? And this is right there and has always been right there. This is the low hanging fruit against MLS, is that, look, there's an established way to do all these things that binds and connects and creates a fantastic culture and interweaving of histories and narratives the world over. And you've been like, put the walls up, baby. Like, we are not participating in that shit. And they've had to kind of change a little bit just because they got humiliated by Mexican teams over and over and over and over again. It wasn't because they felt like generous. It was because their egos were hurt, and it made it hard to represent that they were doing the very best with the first division mandate they've been given. Right? At some minimal level, MLS is supposed to help the U.S. be competitive in football. So when they're not at all competitive, an American says, we're good at literally everything else. Like, if we put resources into this, shouldn't we be good at it? Like every other sport, right? We're just kind of like, we've got a lot of advantages, and we lord them over the rest of the world relentlessly. So where are those when football happens, right? That's what these guys are thinking. So and where they are is in the secret. Where they are is in the structure, right? Like they're like, it's like pointing to a dog. You're showing the billionaires, like, hey, over here. It's over here. It's culture, right? It's culture. I'm pointing at culture, and they're just looking at your arm like, what is this thing? What does this motion mean? Like, culture. There's a cult that you have to. Okay. Yeah. So that's. I mean, more power to USL. I hope that this idea lives, because MLS is. Like most large American corporations, they are not that good at making the thing they're supposed to make, but they are very good at protecting their turf, legally, illegally, whatever. Like, we are living in an age of corruption. So that's what I fear bringing us down, is corruption.
The thing that I was saying was the state. Apparently, the talks already with U.S. Soccer, and U.S. Soccer put out a statement, kind of a positive. Looking forward to hearing the thing on there. Obviously, Paul McDonough was talking today.
I call him Sean McDonough. I feel like such a dumbass.
It's funny because Sean McDonough is calling the Canada-U.S. gold medal Four Nations hockey, not the final of the Four Nations tournament right now on ESPN ABC, and the seemed to really be, while he was kind of, I would say, in the original article, which was Paul Tenorio, I think, from The Athletic, the not as gung-ho about, we're going to do promotion relegation. And this is from the recap that we got in from Channel 451, Alan Jacobson, much more direct support is expressed for pro rel than recently. The D1 bid seems to have resolved some of the prior hesitation from the board of that. There's been the trademark so they're going, well, USL Division One sounds fucking stupid. It's not going to be called that. It'll be USL Premier, because that's what was trademarked, which means nomenclature similar to what you've seen also in other USL Championship, League 1, League 2, etc. Adam, your quick thoughts on it all.
I think that, I largely agree with what Sean said. You worry about the corruption. One thing, though, obviously, I'm glad, though, that the trial's over, just because it seemed like that was holding up so much. You would wish it went the other way, but the trial itself, whether it went one way or the other, was holding things up, it seemed like. So, from that standpoint, it's good that it's done with. But I mean, MLS, U.S. Soccer said a lot of things during that trial that they're going to have to live up to. And, namely it was, them going about things saying that they weren't in this to prevent another league from starting up and forming and applying for Division One. Well, I mean, what's going to happen now is they're going to have to put their money where their mouth is and ultimately be okay with that, because I guess one of their arguments against NASL was, oh, well, they were in a serious league, that they're going to, they're not working towards meeting PLS. Well, I mean, now you have a much more organized, much more serious league. In fact, one of the oldest leagues, is older than MLS, looking to become or have a Division One, part of this ecosystem in U.S. soccer. So that's something that they're going to have to live with, and that's something that they're going to, obviously not support, but just manage from their own standpoint. And and not to mention too, I mean, precedent has already been set with this. I mean, there's already 2 Division One women's leagues in this country. And so you can't say that, oh, well, we can't do it because it's never been done before and we don't know how the logistics, we don't know how that's going to work out, we don't know how this is going to work out. Well, it's already happening right as we speak right now. I mean, USL Super League is in the second half of their season right now.
Yep.
And it's going, and they're working through the things that they need to work through. Has it been perfect? No, it hasn't been perfect at all. And I'm assuming that when USL Premier starts, that it's not going to be perfect either. In fact, I'm sure it's going to, mimic in a lot of the sense what's going on right now between the Super League and the NWSL, how, the NWSL is much more established, looks much more polished. It's, it seems like the more quote unquote Division One league over the Super League. I'm sure that's exactly how things are going to be working out with MLS and USL Premier, USL Division One, whatever it is they're going to call it. But yeah, it's beyond time. And as far as USL Premier goes, I think it's funny how dogmatic though everybody is about PLS, because when you look at sports, especially in this country right now, and really all around the world, at this point, what is the driving force when it comes to professional sports and even major college sports in this country? It's broadcast contracts. It's broadcasting rights. If you have, and that's something that USL really has working for it right now, is they can go to US Soccer right now and say, you know what, we have not only ESPN, but we have a major national broadcast deal right now with CBS. Right. CBS and ESPN are broadcasting our games, and it's only going to make that deal better for USL is if they get that Division One sanctioning, because then they go back to CBS and ESPN and are like, hey, you know what, we have Division One sanctioning now. Can we up that deal a little bit when that contract is up? And they're gonna of course they're gonna be like, yeah, sure, we'll give you more money. And if they get more money and MLS continues to bring in money, is US Soccer really going to be like, oh, well, you know what? We would love to sanction you for Division One status, but you know what? L Lang only holds 10,000 people, and PLS is 15,000. I'm so sorry, but we can't do that for you. Or Charleston doesn't play in a major market, or Indy only plays in the stadium right now. They didn't end up getting their stadium because of the MLS, shit that was going on there. It doesn't work like that, people. And U.S. Soccer is getting to a point where they're starting to work in reality now, because that isn't realistic. Holding these primitive standards on teams and leagues. That's just not the way of the world anymore when it comes to major professional sports, major college sports. And I use this other analogy too. Was CBS or anybody or any of these major broadcasters going to Butler and saying, you know what, the Hinkle Fieldhouse doesn't hold too many, that many people. So you know what, we're not going to broadcast your games after they went to the national championship game. No, because that's not how shit works in this country. That's not how shit works in this country with professional sports and major college sports. It just doesn't work like that. So that's something that's really frustrating. Going online, reading some of these, some of these OG, soccer sickos out there that, keep on pointing to PLS. Well, this isn't going to work because of PLS. Give me a fucking break.
Well, look, I mean,
PLS is made to be broken at this point.
It was established during the trial that MLS had a huge number of waivers from PLS.
Yeah.
Like up until like the late teens. And so it does, it is going to expose U.S. soccer to further litigation.
Sure.
If they can't, hand out some waivers to USL in this situation. And, I don't know. It's hard for me not to be pessimistic because, people don't change. Like if the people that work at U.S. soccer have gotten used to MLS kind of, having a hold of their chain. And they're evidently okay with it because they're still there. So are they going to just sort of automatically resist this a little bit? Is they going to make it hard to do? Or are we going to, are they going to, object? Like, there are pushbacks they can make, which would basically be, look, no soccer succeeded in this country and lived more than, 10 years before MLS came and, created a structure, which, and that they will further say that, the league itself nearly evaporated in 1999. And it was only by adopting this kind of billionaire safety structure that they kept going, with like 2 billionaires owning like 7 teams. So that's their history, right? MLS's history that makes them feel like, look, we tried it kind of halfway the world's way. We didn't share everything, and we nearly lost our ass. So we immediately it was only by suborning U.S. soccer that they were able to succeed. They created Soccer United Marketing and got U.S. soccer to cede to them essentially the rights to the men and women's national team. And then they bundled those rights with the MLS package and said, okay, if you want to show national team games, you want to show international football, which was huge in the United States, right? Even in places where soccer doesn't have a lot of traction, international football, like people wearing something that says USA on it, people will watch that. So every broadcaster wants that, and MLS said, "Okay, fine. You got to make a deal with us too." And that was the state of play for years and years and years. So MLS was able to artificially inflate the value of its contracts. Not that they got the money from the U.S., the women's and men's national team. They were separate deals, but their deal was massively enlarged by instead of selling just MLS games on the open market, for which there was not much market, right? Like even today, MLS games draw flies a lot of times on stream.
Yeah.
But they were able to get big boy deals with these broadcasters because of the ties to U.S. soccer. And so that is the history. There is no question that U.S. soccer has gone out of its way, has done things which are not within necessarily within its remit to make MLS work. And I see why you would start doing something like that. And I'm also a little baffled that people who are intelligent and aggressive enough to fight their way to the top of a food chain like U.S. Soccer would be so easily suborned by, you know, a completely predictable power play from MLS. Like, you know, in my view, as someone who watched it during real time, it just seemed to me that, like, what happened was Don Garber's ego grew to the size of a billionaire over the course of this process. And he and Sunil, like, realized, like, well, I mean, we can kind of, if we just slowly move people in and out, like, kind of gradually take control of key committees and all that, we can make this shit, you know, do whatever we want. And that was when they started to, you know, you started hearing Don Garber say that, like, every dollar spent, every soccer dollar that's not spent with MLS, we don't consider a soccer dollar. You know, we want all of the soccer dollars. Okay, you want to own the soccer? Well, that's not a thing, man. Like,
Yeah.
like that's like Bond villain shit, right? Like, what? You can't own the what? You want to own football? No, you can't. They're dead serious. That's what they want. That's the long-term goal. It's crazy.
Dollars dry up too, Sean. And the thing is, with where shit is going right now, you look at San Diego, $500 million expansion, you know, as an expansion fee to get San Diego in. That is unheard of when it comes to soccer in this country. Yeah. And eventually those billionaires within the United States and really around the world, that will end at some point. That isn't a good model to run on. This is where that comes from, the Ponzi scheme thing comes from. Right. Because you look at some of these billionaire owners, what could they do? Are they going to spend $500 million on an investment in San Diego when they can spend, I don't know, far less than that? Go over to, you know, Europe, England, or whatever, buy a lower league team and invest a shit ton of money into that, right, and work their way up the pyramid.
I think that one of the unique things about MLS to me is that they largely pitch owners who are a lot of times, like, completely disinterested in the actual game on the field, right? Like, caring about football is not part of the like package that is necessary to be an MLS owner. Yeah, that's true everywhere, right? There's, you know, I don't think, you know, Abu Dhabi is passionate about football, right? They've got a wealth fund that invests in football. But, you know, MLS has seemed to cultivate a little more of those guys over the years. But I think that space is starting to close up a little bit because there really is something to having someone who, like, genuinely cares about the outcome in, you know, owning the team. that matters. You need people who, like, at the very least, they're highly motivated. If you care about your ego and you care about, like, you know, reflecting your greatness out into the world, which is kind of what a lot of this is about for the very wealthy, then you'd think you'd want to hire people who are similarly, like, talented and aggressive, and you want to go, you know, win monies, snatch trophies, live forever, right? So, you know, I don't know if there will be a kind of a falling out and gradual filtering out of some of the more, like, you know, just like investment bro portion of the MLS owner base, but yeah, they're certainly very isolated from the hurly-burly of the clubs. You know what I mean? Like, when I covered the Fire for, what, I don't know, 8 years, something like that. And I mean, it was owned most of that time by a dude named Andrew Hauptman, who's had most of his, he was an investment banker, of course, but most of his money was his wife's money. He was, like, married into the Seagrams family, the Bronfman family. who I'm familiar with because they have the science building at Williams College was paid for by the Bronfman family. It's the Bronfman Science Center. And he was an absentee owner, like dickhead, like just ran the club like contemptuously, like really did feel like he had that very Elon vibe where, something he's heard about 8 seconds ago, he's suddenly an expert on. They had like their kit. I can't remember what year it was, like 2015 maybe. Like that was like it looked like a kid designed it in like a second level, like a knockoff version of Photoshop. Like the filters weren't quite right. And like that was something that like it was announced. And I had sources in the club telling me that nobody in the club had seen the kit before it was like, here's the kit. Like, so the owner was just like, yeah, I drew one up, I'm doing it. So I started calling him Little Lord Fauntleroy. And he did not like that. And sent his assigned, a dude named Doug Hicks, who I think worked in USL for a while. He's a PR person, a sports PR person. Like basically had him kind of like try to catch me out and see if he could like get me off the beat, Okay.
They'll find you on the street.
I'm just saying, like these guys are not really. There was no seriousness about the football, It was kind of like it was run with all the seriousness of like the Doge crew. It was just like, hey, I'm going to misread some spreadsheets. I'm going to make some really bad decisions, and then I'm out for 3 months. Okay, cool. And so I'm hoping that the USL's rather closer to the ground, more involved leadership will make the move to a first division like just sort of a embiggening of the current situation. You're going to you basically get the top slice of sponsors now. That really is a lot of what's driving it, right? Is international brands don't want to sponsor a second division club. If you want Ford on our front, you probably need to be in the first division. And it makes sense because really, I think the obviousness of MLS's sort of lack of clothing on certain issues has become like kind of too much to hand wave anymore. Like, okay, look, like it's just not credible that they're the arbiters of football in the USA. Like Cindy Cone, like you have some credibility, okay? And this is your chance to get their chain off your neck and actually just be the administrator of football, which is like the thing I presume you wanted to be. I assume it wasn't pitched to her as like, go be MLS's like, eminence grise in fucking US soccer. Like, I don't think that was probably her idea. So, this is an opportunity for all those people in US soccer who have never really had an opportunity to do the right thing previously, for football in the USA to like, okay, now we're kind of, all right, they've got their head, they can go. So
one thing that I wanted to note on Adam, you talked about lower league English clubs. I remember Bill Foley, Vegas Golden Knights owner, asking people, I think it was on BBC South a couple years ago, a few winters ago, asking, why don't you build an MLS stadium in Vegas? He goes, well, it's going to cost it. Then it was $325 for a franchise fee. And then he goes, and then spend another $700 million in a stadium, when instead he just spent $120 million for a majority stake in Bournemouth, who are now in the top 5 in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of examples like that. Like, a lot of smart people have done well in football over the last few years. And I think we're about to see a deluge of not quite as smart people do poorly.
And with the MLS, and you were talking about Don Garber, what we have started to see with MLS is that aura, or air quote aura, that they think they have really start to dwindle away because a risk was taken with the Apple TV deal.
Yeah, the Apple TV deal is like, I mean, like the production value of it, like the games I've watched on there, they look fantastic, right? But it's like a secret node. Like, who's going to pay that? Like, so you're going to keep an Apple TV subscription and then pay like an extra over the course of the season, what, $150 to watch MLS? Like, really?
So they have been unable to activate the revenue share where they get 50 cents of the dollar on the revenue.
Right.
And
Yeah,
also
get nothing from it. Like,
and for even though yes, this is the amount of money they got in the deal, they are eating all the production costs.
Yep.
So the well's drying up. And the final question that I'll have here, and then we can do like a brief closing thoughts. If MLS, I know Paul McDonough was talking about not wanting to go to a fall, August, or like the August summer schedule, but I know it's been talked about with MLS in the winter months before then.
Yeah, I'm hearing the MLS will do it after the World Cup year.
So if MLS does it,
you know.
So if MLS does it, does that force USL to do it with Premier, or is it going to be an opposite effect of what we're seeing right now on the women's side with NWSL and Super League?
I don't know, honestly. I'm sure they'll game out both options. You know, yeah, you do want to keep your differentiators, but I think that, you know, promotion and relegation and, you know, like normal contracts that aren't, you know, entrapments of, you know, everyone but the very most elite players, will go a long way in the world of professional football. I don't know. I mean, I really think that, like when I was talking earlier about how the billionaires can't see culture, like this Apple TV deal is a perfect example. Like, okay, like you're gonna get all this money and they're gonna pipe it all out everywhere, but like, are people actually gonna see it? Are you gonna be part of the conversation, the sporting conversation at all? Like, no, you're not. Like, they went back to being the kind of niche they were, you know, before 2005.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure there's like hardcore guys who don't talk to anyone else, just talk to their own supporters who really like it, because it is a like presentable product, you know. But you know, nobody's fucking paid for it. Nobody's fucking talking about it. It's ridiculous. I mean, you know,
add the fact people that I know of different supporters who support MLS clubs from different markets, like in the other non-Detroit City folk that I know, but the international club. Yeah. Season ticket prices are going way up the roof. Their own supporters are being priced out. So there's a lot of things on the MLS end that are tidewinds that I think also shift this further. It's the Open Cup debacle last year.
Yeah, they keep making the same kind of mistakes.
And it's starting
it's the kind of mistakes that Peter Wilt would keep him from making. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I know Peter's reputation is not what it once was, but I mean, he would certainly be able to say, "Hey, everyone's gonna fucking hate that. Don't do that." Like no, like people will turn on you. Your own fans will turn on you. You're fucking this up. Don't do it. And like, you know, they clearly don't have anyone with any juice in the room who's saying anything like that. It's all just like, what can we do to stop everything flat? You know, they just want to pave the entirety of football and make it, you know, MLS ball. It's crazy. It's so, yeah. It's yeah. Ozymandias would be proud of the hubris of these jerk-offs.
The most batshit Breaking Bad episode ever was the
Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair.
We'll obviously talk more about the USL Premier developments as these continue to go. Final quick thing we talked about earlier, but we didn't get everyone's take. Home kits announced yesterday. Thoughts initially. M3 unveiling of the sponsor, their photos on their LinkedIn for the whole kit. For those that haven't seen it, for those that are wondering, yes, there are 3 stripes as Adidas intended them to.
3 gold stripes.
Yes. Adam loves the kit. I know Adam loves the kit so much he's made a vow to buy it. His first ever purchase for its kit. Sean, what about you?
Yeah, this is one I want to buy. I really like it. And I know it's it's a template kit, but it's a really good use of the template. And it's kind of a back to the basics home kit in some ways. It's not crazy at all. It's just super solid. It looks great. I like the shorts too. I like they apparently sold an inner thigh slot for the what's the employment place that's always been a sponsor.
SSS.
SSS, yeah. They've got they're like on the left inner thigh of the shorts. Like, wow, okay. Like yeah. Well, I've always thought it interesting that they put sometimes in some leagues they'll put the sponsors thing is down kind of in that tramp stamp area. Okay, so we're really experimenting with this. We're putting if you could put a tattoo there, you could probably put some sponsors there, right? Let's get one down to the outside of the thigh. Yeah, exactly. Sarah's demonstrating that you could get a nice side of the ass sponsor, and it would probably work great. So I think we need to keep innovating. Kevin, keep working. We can put a ring of sponsors all the way around the shorts. Let's just make some money.
Sorry,
but I love the kits. I think they look great.
Adam, you already talked about how much you love it. Go on further, just so in case there are people that are wondering.
Best kits ever for City, and I'm not just saying that. These are the best kits that this club has ever had. So.
Next week at the annual owners meeting, all general meeting, so Sunday, March 2nd at Wayne State will be the unveiling of the away kit and the goalkeeper kits. So that will be the remaining ones that are from there. Last final thought, I mentioned this during Tunnel Talk. There's a parallel to what I'm about to talk about here because
I hope it's quick because we're already 2 hours and 15 minutes almost into this.
Yeah. Detroit City FC culture, supporter culture. A lot of people before we met each other in person, we met each other in social media, Twitter, everything. And you come to know people and personalities and stuff, and it sometimes helps create a bond and appreciation for people. In the Detroit Lions culture and Detroit sports culture, there's Andy Isaac, who you may know on Twitter as World of Isaac.
Well, now I feel like an asshole. Thanks, Garret.
Yep. Who was, we know for the last few months, been sick. Actually posted earlier this week, 2006, and has made the decision to enter into hospice care. Somebody who great Detroit sports takes. Fuck the Bears saying is a thing I think that exudes everybody, but also positive spirits, and that made it to a Detroit City game match as well. And I know talking about a positive vibe and everything in particular. But it's this type of news earlier this week, and I know he's been dealing like the issues of this in the last few months of it. It brought me a lot to reminded me of how my into this culture and getting to know people and knowing people quite a bit through on there before you finally meet the person, that parallel. So to Andy and thank you for all that you've posted and seen on there. All the best to the family during this time. Anyone, Sean, Adam, anything else you want to?
No, I think I'm good.
Nah, I'm good.
So with that being said, more upbeat stuff. We look next week. We should probably be back together to talk about the women's matches with the Iowa Demon Hawks.
Yes.
Girls, not just in Iowa, not just in the name of their team, but of this Detroit City MASLW side that's about to come in and establish dominance. We will talk about the continuing road to the start of the USL Championship season, and if any more W League news as we get it in, or USL news. Detroit.majorsports.com for all the ways you can check out Majors TV content, Make City Make Spence, Channel 451, Detroit's best recaps, everything in there, written stuff. Sean Spence, promote yourself, where people can find you, where they can send cat pics to, etc.
I'm Shield Chafing on all media, which is SCYLD, SCEAFING. That's also my email at Gmail. And I do Words About Shapes on Patreon.
You take cat pics there, Sean?
No, I'm a consumer of cat pics. I still look at my X account like maybe once a day. Mostly because I've muted almost everything except the cat accounts. So it's nice, I'll just kind of like, I got some stress. I'm going to just, watch cats do silly things. Yeah.
I'm currently bugging my cat right now.
You're dugging him?
I'm bugging him.
Oh.
But she's trying to sleep, and I'm like,
you're like, hey.
Yeah.
What you doing? Turnabout is fair play, my friend.
That's right.
The old lady's gonna be pissed at you. Great. Adam, where can folks find you these days?
TMSNX Adam, Blue Sky, Twitter, wherever.
GM Comas for me, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Blue Sky. And we thank everybody for another marathon episode of Make City Make Spence.
Just put, what I would put this on at like 75%. Don't speed it up, slow it down. So we all sound a little bit drunk, like, and then your opinion will be the same as at least one player on the roster. And we're out.
Imagine if we did make this our entire lives, as some people do.
Yeah, I got nothing else going.
Adam, and that was Adam's right eye is as red as his Angels baseball cap. We will look forward to the next episode, which is hopefully next week. And in the meantime, we hope that be good to yourselves, those around you, and each other. Till next time. See ya.